Hey YouTube, Rico Knows here. Just a couple of weeks ago, I put out my top 10 wide receivers for college football for the 2024 season, and it was just a projection. And I put out some players, and I remember I put LeJontay Wester on there, Tay Wester on there, the transfer from FAU to Colorado, and so I got some kickback for it. People were like, hey, I think it's going to be Will Shepard. I think you're wrong. And I was thinking, guys, we're talking about a 100 reception dude. We're talking about the all-time leading receiver in FAU history. I value production over whatever metric you might be looking at, like the eye test or something like that. And then I had somebody write to me, and they're like, hey, you really need to pay attention to Tar'Varish Dawson. Like, he's going to be there. Tar'Varish Dawson, the transfer from Auburn, who's at Colorado, started 4 games last year, played in 7 of them. You don't know he's going to be a part of that offense. And I understand there's fandom out there, and there's people. And I do pay attention to these players. So Dawson had a post, and you can see it here on Twitter. It's deleted now. It's not there anymore. It says post unavailable, multiple places. It's been deleted. But the post was pretty simple. And it was back on February the 4th. He said, why can't things just go right for me? Why can't things just turn out right for me? And I talked to Coach James Chaney about it. Not that specific quote, but just in general. Just said, hey, man, this is how life happens. Life happens this way. You have a plan, and things don't ever go to plan. Nothing's going to go to plan. And I even talked about it on my podcast later that night. I talked about, and it wasn't to harp on this young man or to dwell on his failures or his lack of accomplishment while at Colorado, but it was to help everybody understand. You're not alone in this. We're adults out here. I'm over 40 years old. I've lived a fair amount of life to tell you that I'm a product of my failures. I had to fail 1,000 times to be Rico Knows. I did. I had to fail 100 times over to be sitting in this chair right here, living the life I'm living. I promise you. We're all products of our failures. Just think about it. I had to fail this, and I've traced it all the way back to the 5th grade. I'll never forget the 5th grade. The 5th grade, first day of school, they gave us all a test. They gave us a 100 questions test. It was multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. I was so advanced mathematically, I thought the test was a joke. So I took the test. There was decimals and fractions and all these different things. And I just wrote down all the answers as fast as I could because I wanted to be the first one done. And I turned it into the teacher. I didn't show any work. I just did that. Just boom, 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 boom. And they said, can you show your work on these answers? I said, why? The answers are right. I'm good. They said, cool. They put it in a second stack. And then the next day they announced the following students will be going to this classroom for math. The next students will be going to this classroom for math, and then these other students will go to this classroom for math. So it was the advanced math kids over here, the kids who didn't show their work but got the answers right over here, and then the kids who got them all wrong over here. So now I'm in this B group in the 5th grade. Now we get to the 6th grade, and they put me in a regular-ass math class. I forget what it was. It was just called math. But all those kids who showed their work on those problems, they got put on a different glide path. They got to go to algebra. They got to go to algebra 1, algebra 2, and then geometry by the 8th grade. And when we got to high school, they were in pre-cal classes. They were in biology and physics, biology, chemistry, and physics, and I was in something called science. I said, what the hell is this? And I could never get into those AP classes. I could never catch back up. And it was all because in the 5th grade, I decided not to show my work on a test. It put me on the wrong glide path. And no matter how many times I was great, I went and talked to a counselor, hey, I'm getting A's, I'm smart. They'd be like, no, you're just over here. And I got really discouraged. I ended up with a 2.4 GPA. And it wasn't until I became an adult and learned to own my failures and achieve greatness out of my failures that I started taking my education seriously. And I went back to college, graduated 3.96, magna cum laude, all that shit. But there was a moment there in my life where I was just failing repeatedly and nothing was going to plan. I had an apartment and my budget, I made a budget. I wrote it all out. I was like, man, I make this much money. I was 18 years old. Moved out of my parents' house, no roommates, just me. And I wrote down, I had 2 jobs, and I was writing down how much money I make. And I said, this is what I clear. I clear this after bills. I clear $600 a month. Oh my God. By the end of this year, I will have $6,000. I'm going to Cancun and Hawaii. True story. The year's 2000. And after 10 months I'm supposed to have $6,000. Yeah, 10 months. I'm supposed to have $6,000. 10 months later, I have $43 in the bank. Nothing's gone to plan. I've had 2 flat tires. One person broke into my truck, stole all my tools, stole my laptop from work. A toilet broke. I had flooding in my apartment. I just think my TV broke. It didn't work anymore. I moved it from one room to the next, plugged it in, and it didn't work anymore. It was one of them old school CRT TVs, the big fat ones. Yeah, it was like a 32-inch, 300-pound TV. Me and a buddy, we moved it from my living room to my bedroom. And when I plugged it in, it never worked again. Needed to buy a new TV. Nothing went to plan. I've been married twice. Divorced twice. Nothing goes to plan. That's life, bro. That's life. That's how it goes. So when this young man, Dawson here, wrote it on Twitter, I replied to it and just said, nothing ever goes to plan, man. That is what we call life. We're in a grind. We're a product of our failures. I wrote this long post about it. I wonder if I can find it right now while I'm on here. If I do Rico Knows, TikTok, and then I put failure. Let's see if it comes up. There it is. Nope, that's not it. Damn. It's unfortunate. I wanted to find it. And the reason I want to talk to you guys about this is, well, if you go check the spring roster for Colorado, Tar'Varish is no longer on the team. He's no longer on the Colorado football team. I don't know if it's temporary, permanently, but he's not on the team anymore. Nothing went to plan. And I even saw the young man's post. He said, hey, I'm just focused on my daughter right now. His priorities are straight. He's got a young daughter in this world. And I want to just remind every young person in this world, you got to find your motivation to be great. I was in the military over 20 years. There are days I did not want to get out of bed. There are days I did not want to strap on those boots. There are days I did not want to lead men. There are days I did not want to be in charge of everyone. There are days I didn't want to get yelled at again. There were days I just wanted to quit. And then I remembered, oh, shit, I got child support. I got kids to feed. And before that, it was, my daughter would run into the room and just be like, hey, daddy. And I'd look at her and be like, damn, I can't quit. I could quit on me. I can't quit on her. And sometimes every one of you young men in this world need to find, young men and women, you need to find the motivation beyond yourself. You need to find the motivation not to quit. Find your give a fuck, right? Figure out why you care. And that motivation will evolve and change throughout your entire life. Some days you'll make decisions for money. You'll make decisions for comfort. You'll make decisions for happiness. You'll make decisions for your standard of living. Whatever it is, find your motivation to be great. Don't quit on yourself. Adversity makes you stronger, all that other bullshit. But real talk, I can see a young man hurting. He writes on Twitter. And there's a lot of adults witnessing it. And we're all looking at it saying, dude, welcome to this shit called life, this roller coaster of life. Get in where you fit in. Don't quit. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows.